He's now running for president. Will you continue to give speeches?
Oh, yeah. I got to pay our bills.
Wow.
Wow. Mark Halperin.
Family business now. Business
It's a good paying family business.
Yeah.
We got to pay our bills.
That's going to get a lot of attention.
I'm just going to let that lie. I think it should. People can make their. I'm sort of baffled.
It comes
at the entire conversation. Actually,
you know what's so amazing about the Clintons? Yeah, there's so many things that's amazing, but their ability to continue to paint themselves as the victim. So here we are. The Clintons are racing towards a net worth of $200 million, and they are still painting themselves as the victims of a vast right-wing conspiracy. This time it's the New York Times and the Washington Post. And, you know, we left the White House without any money, and now racing towards a net worth of $200 million from giving speeches. We're now talking about, quote, I have to pay my bills. And I didn't take any capital gains, or it's baffling. Why?
It inspires me to say the two things I keep saying, which is they are held to a higher standard, but they bring a lot of this on themselves. I mean, elsewhere in that interview, he talks about the fact that the foundation made some mistakes in terms of disclosure. When you're former president and you're dealing with this complex stuff and you made a deal with the State Department, you can't make mistakes. And if you do, you got to be much more forthright about them than they've
Let me push back a great deal on what you just said. The Clintons are not held to a higher standard. The Clintons are held to the lowest of all standards for some reason.
I disagree.
You look at Bob Ney going to jail for 30 months because he put something on the House floor because he'd gone golfing in Scotland 6 months earlier. Bob McDonnell sitting in jail right now, and his wife's going to jail or either in jail because he held a reception at the governor's mansion for some dietary supplement because he got a Rolex watch, and which wasn't actually violating the law. If no other politicians on the planet would be able to survive, or at least in America, would be able to survive this. Mika, we've talked about this before. If you had all of these questions that the New York Times were raising, that the Washington Post was raising, that the Wall Street Journal's raising, that the top newspapers in America are raising, people's campaigns would be suspended, not just Republicans, because we would go, oh, well, they're unfair to Republicans. Democrats would be suspending their campaign and lawyering up based on everybody else being sent to jail for a hot tub in their backyard, or what happened to Ted Stevens, or what happened to, well, Bob Menendez. My God, look at Bob Menendez's case. He's got indictments against him for a chummy relationship with a doctor. Let's talk about Bill Clinton's, and you've said this yourself, Bill Clinton's relationship with his Canadian friend, which keeps getting more and more ink written about him.
But what official acts did they take in exchange for something of value?
Well, that's why we have investigations. Yeah. I could ask the same thing of Bob Menendez. I could ask the same thing of Bob McDonnell.
Bob Menendez took official acts.
Well, right, and you know very well we could talk about whether it's the Russian deal or whether it was the Indian deal or whether it was. We could go through a lot of different things that newspapers are investigating right now that certainly seem every bit as nefarious and questionable as Bob Menendez's deal with a doctor in South Florida. By the way, much more money has changed hands, and there have been much bigger policy ramifications for what investigators or what newspaper investigations are looking into right now.
Mark, do you disagree?
There's a difference. Bob Menendez, according to the indictment, took money that he benefited from personally and performed official acts on behalf of that person. There's no evidence yet that the Clintons did that.
And maybe there never will be.
That's what the New York Times is looking into, and the Washington Post, and a lot of other people. But you know what we can do? Here's a great thing. We can look at their emails, Mika, on what Hillary Clinton was doing, because there are all of these questions about when she was in the State Department.
Yeah.
And we can look at the emails that were exchanged, whether it was a Colombian free trade deal, or whether it was the Russian uranium deal, or whether it was this relationship with this Canadian billionaire, or whether, I mean, we could go down a list of 5, 6, 7, 8 things that the New York Times and the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal are looking into right now and ask those questions.
Thank goodness.
Oh, wait a second. No, we can't. Ron Fournier, the day that he found out that it was wiped clean, he started talking about the foundation and all the money. He said, I've been covering the Clintons since they were in Arkansas.
Yeah.
This is what they do. And now we're not going to be able to do the investigation we need to do on all this money.
All right.
But at least they can pay their bills.
It is time now for Business for the